All right, I'm going to make a video today with the topic is how to learn from a round of golf that you played, how to recap it, how to identify what happened, what mistakes were made, why you shot what you shot, and use that information to maybe frame your practice before the next round. So, for me, I play a tournament once a week, basically. I've got some bigger tournaments bigger weeks in the summer where I'll play multiple rounds in a week. But most of the time, it's one tournament round a week over the course of the year in the Colorado PGA with some other ones sprinkled in there, kind of culminating in the PGA Section Championship in September. So, I want to have a good season. I want to, have some success, win some money, get enough points to qualify for the Colorado Open, etc. But each event kind of gives me about a week in between to, reflect on how the round went, decide what I am going to work on, when I have a chance to practice, which, I usually get an hour or two of practice a week, typically in the summer. And just what things to pay attention to for the next time so that I maybe, don't make the same mistakes all summer long. So, we start off with, we want to get a good idea of what happened. So we're going to get into the what's first. I'm going to be using a Shot Pattern app, which is what I use for my pre-round strategy tactics as well. Want to get into what happened, what areas of the game were strong, weak, etc. And then if possible, I want to get into a little bit about why those things might have happened. So, you hit a bad shot or a bad putt. Doesn't just mean you're a bad putter. Doesn't just mean go practice your putting. It might mean something else. It might be I have to work on my mental game, or maybe my process with reading greens or something like that. So I'm going to dive into it. This video is going to be kind of long. Just because I'm going to go through it all. When I do this on my own, I kind of do some of it on the car ride home, thinking about these things. I'll enter my stats and I'm thinking about it then. And I kind of try to boil it down into a couple of actionable items, whether those actions are going to be some things I work on in practice or things I'm going to pay more attention to the next time that I play. So let's dive into the round. We're going to use Shot Pattern here. I'm going to be pulling it up on my iPad and kind of voicing over the round. I'm going to go over pretty much the whole round. I'll blaze through some holes that were, not very memorable, but just, there's some holes that were just, hit it down the middle, hit it on the green, two putt, whatever. But we're going to be focusing especially on where things kind of went wrong. In this particular tournament, by the way, Columbine, it's a par 72. 70 won it. Columbine is a tough course. It's early in the year too. Columbine's a hard golf course. They've had US Open finals there. It can play very difficult. It's a tree line course. Anyway, I shot 75, 3 over par, 2 under won it. So I missed out on winning by 5 shots. I finished 15th out of about 85 players. I did make a check, made some points. I would say it was an okay result. It wasn't the best round. It wasn't the worst round. It was kind of a meh, an okay start to the year. Nothing great, nothing terrible. But I want to make sure that I'm thinking about it so that I can maybe save a couple of shots next week at my next tournament at Saddle Rock, which, I'll be diving into that at some point this week, dive into the tactics for that. But for now, I'm still, I'm going to kind of finalize my thoughts on the first round so that I can, and hopefully help you figure out how to learn from your rounds as well as possible. All right, so I'm using the Shot Pattern app here, and it's awesome. I'm going to kind of go through some of the features of this app. You can also use Decade. I've used Decade for this exact thing. I also use Google Earth on my PC. Google Earth is free. Decade is a subscription. This particular app, Shot Pattern, is also a subscription service. But this particular event was a shotgun start. We started on hole 16, which was a par 3. We teed off from about here. Now the flag was here. And, as I was lasering it, and I wanted to make sure I covered the bunker, which was 163. Now, my 9-iron goes about 165 on a good one. 8-iron's about 180. I decided first hole of the day, kind of chilly, wearing some clothes. I didn't want to step up there and try to nuke a 9-iron. These little circles, by the way, in Shot Pattern illustrate different, expected shot dispersions. Okay, so the closer you are to the hole, you might expect to be able to hit your shots in a little closer versus farther away. So I'll be using that a little bit as well. It also has this awesome feature off the tee, which I'll show you in a second on on the next hole. But anyway, I've got about 175 or so. My expected dispersion is about this big for this shot, and if I had tried to hit a 9-iron, it's possible I would have cleared the bunker and been in good shape, but I would say a reasonable outcome would have been leaving some shots in the bunker, and that's just not what you want to do. So I elected to hit like a chippy 8-iron to start. I was aiming basically middle of the green, even though the flag was way left because it does kick all out of bounds here. And I hit it. It landed right about where I was looking, right about on the dot there, and it ended up rolling over the back, which I thought was kind of unusual. Normally an 8-iron, even a chippy one, will stop on the green when it lands. It ended up rolling over the back. So as I drive up there, I'm looking at where my ball ends up. I fixed my pitch mark, which was basically dead center of the green, and I'm thinking, okay, first learning part of the day is these greens might be a little firmer than normal. And in my group, I had playing with a foursome. Another player had hit the green. He was also over the green. And as I was watching one of the other players, he was pitching from over here. I watched his ball land on the green, took a pretty big bounce and rolled past the hole. And so we're 7 minutes into this tournament, and I'm already starting to, get a sense of what the course conditions are like. I'm thinking the greens are firm. So from here, I hit a little running chip shot that I thought I left short, 7 feet short when I hit it. I didn't think I was going to get there, and it ended up rolling all the way up to 4 inches, and I tapped it in for par. And so the second thought I had was the greens might be a little faster than the putting green, which was a little bit slower than on the course. So par on the first, no big deal, executed everything well. Greens might be a little firmer than I thought, might be a little faster than I thought. That's what it ended up. That was where I was at starting off after the first hole. All right, next hole. Now this is where we talk about shot dispersions off the tee. Now I'm trying to hit most of my drives. I expect my driver to carry somewhere 300, 310, something like that. And I expect to be able to keep it within about a 60-yard window. And this app has an arc out there that represents 60 yards, and I can change that around 70, 60, 50, 40. You can see that arc shrink. I expect my driver to be about a 60-yard window of opportunity. So my game plan on this hole, I could either hit something back here, leaving myself 160, or I could hit something up here. Hitting driver puts the bunker into play, but hitting 3-wood puts the other bunker into play, neither of which are one better than the other. 3-wood just leaves you farther in. So if you're going to put a bunker in play regardless, I elected to hit driver. My target was basically the center of the fairway, right where that mark is. And I hit it. I hit a pretty good drive. It was a little missed, and it peeled off to the right. It landed kind of right about here. Landed right over the bunker in this little tree line, which is within my expected dispersion. So it's nothing. I can't be upset about that. It's not in the fairway, and it did bounce a little right. So I ended up in the rough over here, and I had some tree trouble. And I'm standing there now. Let me put where I was at. I was about right here, and I had a decision to make. So the flag was right there. Oops, let me go back, sorry. Quit clickety here. My ball ended up here. The flag was right here, cut by that bunker. I swear I'll get this right on this shot. There we go, flag was there. So, decision time right here. So I've got a tree in the way. You can see, you can kind of see it. I've got this tree right here. It's definitely in the way. I had the option to try to hit a big giant rope hook gap wedge around the tree. I have to aim it almost out of bounds and hope it hooks. I was thinking about trying to pull that shot off and what the likely outcomes were. Outcome number one is I don't hook it enough and I end up, in this grass over here and with a short-sided flop shot to this hole location. That's not a great outcome. If I end up in the bunker, kind of same idea, short side bunker shot. And I was like, even if I did hook the snot out of it and really bent it all the way to where it landed on the green, a big giant snap hook that lands on the green, especially if they're firm, might land on the green and most likely isn't going to hold because of the amount of hook on it. So I didn't really see a good outcome from kind of, bend one around this tree. So I elected to just hit it over here. I just chipped it out 50 yards, left myself about 90. and then hit a pretty good shot from there, like 8 feet, and missed it and made a bogey. And, so that was first bogey of the day. And, you chalk that one up and you just be like, well, that's the kind of bogey I would say that just kind of happens. It's not like there was anything I really could have done. Like my tee shot was within my expected dispersion. I didn't have a shot that, from where I was, I didn't have a very good option to go for the green, so I had to chip it out. And I was happy I gave myself a chance to make par. Next hole is par 4. I roasted it down the middle to like 110, hit it to like 10 feet. I missed it. Hit a good putt, just lipped out on the high side, no big deal. Next hole, number 1. Tee box was back a little bit more. Not that it matters too much. It was into the wind. Tee box was back here. The bunker was 260. I decided that 2-iron wasn't going to get there into the wind. So I hit 2-iron. My dispersion on a 2-iron is about 50 yards in general. And I ended up hitting it just a little bit into the left rough. It wasn't the best tee shot. I hooked it a little bit. But it was just in the left rough right here. Once again, within my expected dispersion, I had 130 from the left rough. And the flag was just about here. I hit a good shot, maybe 20 feet right of the flag, and then I kind of sent my first putt like 4 feet by, and then I missed the comebacker. So 3 putt from 25 feet. Definitely big black mark on the scorecard there. We'll get back to that. So if I was kind of keeping track of things, the first bogey I made, I would say it was just, one of those bogeys that you really can't do much about. You hit your tee shot within your dispersion, you didn't have a shot. What can you do? This bogey was a definite problem, so it was a 3 putt. And so I would write that down on my little notes here, and we'll come back to that in a second. Go to the next hole. Number 2, big par 5. We were right, yeah. Big par 5. It's kind of narrow up here, but I mean, it's reachable. You don't really want to lay it back because there's a big tree in the way. You just kind of, once again, you kind of send it up here and hope you're in the fairway, knowing that some of the time you're going to be in the bunker. Probably laying up from there. Some of the time you might be blocked out by the tree. You might have to like wiggle one around the tree. You might not be able to go for it, but driver's the play. I hit a good drive, just barely right rough, like right here. It was within dispersion, but I had this tree in my way, and I elected to try to hit like a little low cut around the tree, try to get it up around the green. I think I hit a 2-iron. Little sliced 2-iron, and I kind of got lucky. I didn't realize this water came in this much because I was aiming kind of about here, trying to hit a big slice, and I sliced it and ended up right about here. And I'm kind of lucky. If I'd have known that water came in that much, I would have hit one less club, I think, just to make sure I didn't get there. But I ended up in a fine spot. I just had a little pitch over the bunker, kind of a flop shot. The flag was cut pretty close to there, and I flopped it to like 20 feet and 2-putted. Would have been nice to get it up and down, but in the flop shot, the last thing you want to do on that flop shot is dump it in the bunker. So I was aiming to, send it a little bit past, which I did. So made a par. Wasn't the best par, wasn't the worst par. I just didn't have a clear shot at the green. No big deal. Go to the next hole. Number 3. It's a par 3. It's about 210 yards, so my approach dispersion looks about like this, 50 yards wide. Pin was basically in the middle. I was aiming in the middle, and I hit a 7-iron. I was playing a little short of that. We were up a little bit. It was like 205. Hit 7-iron that landed on the very right edge of the green about here and kicked off to the right just a little bit in the rough. So, not the best shot, certainly, but not the worst shot. I mean, a 7-iron that hits the edge of your dispersion pattern and kicks 5 yards into the rough is not the worst possible outcome. I hit a terrible chip here. I thought I hit it good, though. I thought I hit a good shot, and there's like a little mini tier in this green, and it just caught the tier and rolled like 20 feet past and away from the flag. And that one there, I would say I executed the shot how I thought, and it was a terrible result. And as I was looking at it, as I walked around and looked at it from where I was putting from, I realized that, if I'd have walked up there and maybe had a closer look at it, I didn't really walk up there. I parked the cart here, walked to my ball, and hit it. I didn't like walk up to the hole and like have a close look around it. So I think if I'd have just walked up there, I would have seen that how severe it was moving away from the hole, and maybe would have had a chance to get that up and down. No guarantees, but I wouldn't have had 20 feet for par. So that is a bogey, and it may have been avoided by, taking one more look on the chip shot, taking a little more time on the chip shot. Next hole is a par 4. It is super tough. You know, you basically hit it up here. I hit like a 2-iron up here at about 200 yards out, hit it on the green and 2-putted. No big deal. Next hole, 5-iron down. I thought it was down the middle. It was actually in the right rough with some tree problems. We all, in our group, we all hit what we thought were perfect, and we were all in this little pocket right here with a little blocked out by the trees. Now I had a window. I didn't have any tree trouble, but that's a note for next time. Just not knowing the course quite as well as I wish I did. I probably should have hit that 5-iron almost at the bunker instead of, you know, you can see the bunker off the tee, but the rest of it's kind of blind. I hit it right of the bunker, thought it was perfect, and it was borderline tree trouble. Like I said, it ended up being okay, but I'll have to remember to hit that shot more left next time I play Columbine. And then I hit the green and 2-putted from like 30 feet. Next hole's a little drivable par 4. I hit a 3-wood right to here. Pin was about right where that dot is, and I chipped it about 7 feet past. It was a pretty good chip. It was like up and over this ridge. Thought I hit a pretty good chip, and my putt lipped out. It was a good putt, just didn't go in. No big deal, make par. Next hole, hit the green, hit the middle of the green, 2-putted from 20 feet. Flag was like kind of tucked here. I wasn't aiming at the flag. I was aiming at about the middle of the green, and that's where I hit it. 2-putted there. No big deal. Next hole is a par 5. The tee was back a little bit here. Let me put the tee box where it was. Boom. And this is a really narrow one. You can see out here at like 310, you know, there's a bunker, and everything left of the fairway slopes hard down to this little ravine down here. So the you know, you want to hit a shot where your shot pattern doesn't really get you into that hazard. And to the right, there's some trees, of course, but the game plan on this hole generally is like, I know I'm basically trying to hit it at this bunker. And if I miss it a little left, it should be still up on the up here. It shouldn't go down by the water. So left is not too far off. I shouldn't be in trouble there. Some of the time I'll be in the fairway and I will be able to go for the green from 280. Some of the time I'll be in the bunker and I'll be able to lay it up with, say, a 6 or 7-iron. And some of the time I'll probably end up in these trees or just in the right rough, which is exactly what happened. I hit my tee shot. It ended up about here, which is within my dispersion once again. You know, I don't obviously want to be in the trees, but, you know, there's nothing you can really do about it. I did have a tree in front of me that I had to get over. So I ended up hitting like a 8-iron. I had really a ton of mud on my ball and I kind of whiffed it. I got it over the tree, but I ended up getting it over the tree and had like 180 left. Luckily that shot knocked most of the mud off the ball and I actually stuffed that shot to like 7 feet and made it for a birdie. Anyway, but that's kind of, you know, when you're looking at narrow tree-lined courses, you know, just in general, a lot of times like there's no club you can hit that like guarantees the fairway. So you're just trying to pick targets that are all reasonable, you know, like fairway is fine, bunker is fine, in the trees is fine, like almost all the time, unless you're right up against one, like you'll be able to find a way to lay it up somewhere. And as opposed to, you know, hitting it way back here, no chance to go for the green, or trying to hit it more left, avoiding the bunker and the trees, and now you're putting the water into play. So those are the kind of decisions you make when you're just, you know, how much risk are you willing to take on with your shot pattern. Go to the 9th, roasted a drive really good right over the bunker. I had like 105 in. I hit it to 10, 12 feet and missed it, but it was a good putt, just didn't go in. Next hole, this one's an interesting one. The tee boxes were up. We had like one, and the flag was here. Flag was in the very front little here. So it was like 150. This thing says 140. It was like 150. And this is the expected shot pattern from 150. It's about a 30-foot diameter, or 30-foot radius circle. I made a mistake here. So I had a pitching wedge in my hand, which is exactly 150. The flag was exactly 150, and I basically just took dead aim at the flag. And you can see in this dispersion, you can see a little piece of it is in this bunker, and that's exactly what happened. I kind of chunk-toed it a little bit, and I ended up plugged in this bunker right here. The error there was, you know, if I'd have just tried to hit it 155, you can see that most of that circle is now on the green, right? So 5 extra yards of, you know, if I had to hit, you know, if that pitching wedge instead of a stock one, if I had to try to hit a hard one, you know, 155 instead of 150, then that little miss probably would have ended up like right here instead of buried, plugged in the bunker. Now, and that was like dead. You know, I walked up there and I was like, oh, this is bad. Now I did end up hitting like an unbelievably good bunker shot to like 4 feet. From there, it was awesome. From the plug lie, it just came out super high and right up by the hole. Hit it to 4 feet and I missed it. So bogey because of a couple things. Because the tee shot shouldn't have ever been in a bunker with a wedge, and it shouldn't be missing 4-footers. We'll get back to the putting in a second. There's another putter error. We went to the next hole. It's a nasty little dog leg. I hit a 5-iron. I flared it out to the right a little bit. I had like 205. Hit downwind. I hit a 7-iron that landed on the middle of the green, rolled barely over the back, and then I chipped it in. So good little bonus, made birdie there. Go to the next hole, roasted one down the middle. I had about 205 in. It's par 5. This was really good tee shot. Hit it to here, and I had. Oh, let's put the flag in here. Not that it matters, but put the flag in here. Bloop. Flag was just over the bunker. I was aiming dead center of the green. I had a 7-iron in my hand. A 7-iron, the dispersion looks more like this. I was aiming right at the dead center of the green. I hit a pretty good 7-iron. I just missed it a little right. It landed on this bank. It was right in line with the pin. It landed on this bank, and if it had bounced forward, it might have gone in, to be honest. It bounced backwards into the bunker, though, and hit a good bunker shot to like 12 feet past the hole and then missed it. So it was a par, but it was played that hole well. Once again, like hitting a 7-iron from 200 yards, like sometimes you're going to miss the green. And like my ball landed within my dispersion. It just, took a bounce backward instead of forwards. I'm not saying it's a bad break or anything. It's just that could happen. Not sweating that at all. All right, next hole is where things got ugly, okay? Goal on this tee shot was, let me see here. We were back a little bit. All right, this is my worst hole of the day. So we're back here. And my goal here, I'm always, when I play this course, for some reason, I always end up hooking it into these trees. So I'm like, okay, just, I can carry the first bunker. I can carry the second bunker. I might have a hard time carrying the third bunker. So my goal was to hit it over the second bunker. I hit my tee shot and missed it a little heely, a little right, and ended up in this bunker. And at the time, I didn't think it was any kind of a big deal. I've never been in those bunkers. And I was like, whatever, if I'm in the bunker, no big deal. It's par 5, I'll just lay it up. And so we get up here, and I've got some tree trouble. Let me put my ball there. So I've got some tree trouble. You can kind of see this tree right here is really in the way for like a good layup shot. And so I've got to like aim left of this tree, which means I can only lay it up like, maybe 120, 30, 40, something like that. And the closer I hit it to the tree, the longer I could hit it. So if I really get, hit a layup that's like right next to the tree line, I can hit it down there a little further. And this is where I got in trouble. I ended up trying to hit it down there a little further, and I missed it a little bit chunky and nipped this tree, and it kicked over here into more trees, and now I was no chance to go for the green or anything. I was blocked out all the way, so I had to like chip that one into the fairway. And then from there, I hit a pretty crappy 80-yard shot to like 40 feet, totally misread it, blew it 10 feet by and missed the comebacker and made a double. So we'll come back to that hole in a second, but that was a rough one there. Just all kinds of stuff went wrong, so I'll come back to that in a second. Coming down to the end of the round here, hole 14, I was, pissed about the last one. I pumped one down the middle, hit the green, and 2-putted for par. And then the last hole, I hit it down the right side of the fairway. I hit a pitching wedge to 20 feet and made it for birdie. And that was the end of the round. So let me go back to my... So over the course of the round, so I went into shot pattern, and let me pull up shot pattern here. I went into shot pattern, and I put my round in. So this is like the what happened, okay? When we think about this, there's the what and there's the why. So if I go to my rounds, here's Columbine Country Club. Let's go to the stats. We can see that from a strokes gain standpoint, I shot 75, lost 0.6 of a shot driving. I would say I hit all my drives within dispersion, and a couple of them ended up in the trees. So overall, fine on the driving. My approach game, I hit... the really bad one was the wedge. on number 10, the one that I hit it into the bunker. I just didn't hit it, I just didn't, my target was poor there. My short game was pretty good. That included a chip in and a couple of good up and downs. And my putting, I lost 3.5 shots putting. So that's the one that sticks out to me the most. So, okay. So now getting into the round, I made 4 bogeys and a double. Okay. The first bogey I made was just a nothing you can do about it kind of bogey. So I'm not going to sweat that one. It was one I hit it. It ended up behind the trees. It wasn't a bad drive. Had to chip it out. That's a bogey that just happens. The other one that I am not super sweating is there was a par 3. I missed the green to the right. I hit a bad chip. It was a 7-iron. I'm not going to sweat bogeying a 210-yard par 3 very much. That's going to happen. So those two I'm not super worried about. The first one that I worry about is on hole number 1 is my 4th hole of the day. I 3-putted from like 25 feet. And here's what happened. So getting into the why. So my first putt was 25 feet. I hit it a little too hard. It wasn't the worst putt, but I kind of forgot that the greens were faster than they maybe I had thought. So I hit it a little past, and then I've got this 4-footer, and I've got this. The side note, I haven't 3-putted since like early February. I haven't had a 3-putt since February at Spyglass Hill on the Pebble trip. I've played like 8 rounds since then. I haven't had a 3-putt in 8 rounds. And I'd had like a thing on my little board in the garage, like rounds since my last 3-putt. Like I was proud of that fact, right? And I remember getting up over this 4-footer, and all I could think about was like, I don't want the streak to end, right? Like I don't want the streak to end. And like, that's what I was thinking about over the putt. I wasn't thinking about like what I wanted to do. I was thinking about don't mess up your streak. And so I made this like nervy kind of uncommitted stroke, and I missed it. It was a terrible stroke, terrible execution. Mind was not in the present. So that was a mental error, and I have since erased that board, that stat from the board in the garage. I'm not going to think about putting or 3-putt streaks ever again, because I find that is not a helpful thought. So that 3-putt, I'm chalking it up to not being in the present. Putting wise, the next putt that I missed was on number 10. It was the par 3 where I hit it in the plug line in the bunker, and a great bunker shot to 4 feet. I had a really slippery left to right 4-footer. I elected to play a lot of break because it was fast, downhill, downwind, big break. I played a ton of break, and then as I was over it, I kind of forgot that I needed to like really hit it gently, like just barely get it going with that much break. And I just kind of hit it normal pace and hit it kind of through the break, about 2 feet past the hole. And I was really trying to diet in there when I was reading it. So that just was an error on the matchup. I kind of, you got to match up on those like breaky 4-footers, your speed and your line. And I just didn't do that. I kind of forgot that I had to, baby it. So once again, it's not like a putting error as much as it is I just kind of didn't remember to hit it really soft. And then the last 3-putt, I had like 50 feet, and it was a really tough one to read. It was one of the guys in my play. We all made a mess of that one. It was just like an awkward read. I blew it way past. I couldn't even tell you why, except I just misjudged it. And it made me think that I kind of want to have, like, I do better when I have like a putting, like a book, like a greens book. And I don't have one for Columbine. And, like I don't need a book for every single round I play. And I'm not going to get a book for every single tournament round. But I'm thinking, like, if we play Columbine every single year, once a year, which we have over the last 5 or 6, 7 years, like I should probably have a book for it. So if I see Columbine on the schedule next year, I'm going to get a book. They're kind of expensive, but I think a book would have helped me read it. Not just that one putt, but like a couple of other ones where you get on these fast greens and it's kind of hard to tell which way it's going. And sometimes a book can just be a little bit helpful. It might save me a shot. And if you're in contention, and you shoot one shot better because maybe you have a book, then you pay for the book easily. With the prize money, we're not playing for like big prizes, but couple shots better was probably worth a couple $100, and the book costs $40-$50. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to get a book for that. As far as the other stuff, the other 2 takeaways here, I got to be careful with wedges. I got to be careful not to get too aggressive with wedges. Trying to fire too many flags. I need to understand that there's a shot pattern associated with a wedge. That's why that one plugged in the bunker. with the pitching wedge. And then another general theme was that when I do get into a recovery situation in the trees, I ended up having one that really cost me in the bunk on that double bogey where I did hit the tree that I was trying to avoid. But I had a couple others that worked out, but they were like too close for comfort, I guess you could say. I had a couple other shots with tree problems, and even though they worked out, like some of those golf balls were like inches from the branches. And so I think what I got to make sure when I'm in a recovery spot is I got to make sure that I, take my medicine a little bit more and just don't be too aggressive on layups and punch outs and stuff. Final thought was I had some short game shots. I'm really not comfortable right now with like hitting like higher ones and spinnier ones. I would have liked to have done that maybe once or twice, hitting like a spinner or a high shot. But I haven't hit much off grass. We've been off mats and it's been winter and all this stuff. So I think from a practice standpoint, I'm going to spend a little bit of time working on my open-faced spinners and high shots so that I'm not just, defaulting to like this low runner that I kind of am comfortable with. So that's kind of the round recap. Let's go back to the portrait mode here and we'll summarize those for the day. All right, so that's the round. That's the what happened and a little bit about why. When we look at the stats, the biggest area of improvement is putting. And, if you just looked at that stat, you might think, I got to go practice my putting. Now, I don't think so. I think the majority of those putts were that I missed were not lack of practice. They wasn't because of my stroke or anything like that. It's just more the mental process. So I got to be really aware of when I'm hitting these putts, especially the close ones. I just got to make sure my line and speed match up. I'm in the present. I'm not thinking about a 3-putt streak, and I'm not playing a ton of break and then hammering it through there. I don't think that's necessarily practice. That's just more like being aware of where my mind is, making sure I'm focusing on the right thing, staying in the present, staying on the task at hand. I am gonna look at my schedule for the rest of the year, and I know I've got books for some of my events. I'm going to see which other events I might want to get books for, because I do find that book helps when you're playing a course that you don't play that often. So those are some action items. Pay attention to the mental side of putting, maybe get some books. From a practice standpoint, I'm going to be working on short games, specifically like open face spinners and higher shots. There was a couple times I would have liked to have hit a little higher, softer shot, and I elected not to just because I was worried about the contact. I just was worried about flubbing it or something. So that's something I want to work on so that gets a little bit better for the next couple rounds. I want to be a little bit more careful with my when I have a wedge in my hand, distance-wise, 100 yards, 120, 140 yards. I tend to get a little too just aim at flag, and sometimes you got to be a little bit, even if it's just a couple of yards of bias away from the flag, right, left, short, long. I think that would, I know from even last year, that's an area where I'll tend to, have a shot or two around where I get a little aggressive and hit a shot that's not that bad and it ends up in a bunker or short-sighted because I just didn't give it an extra couple feet or yards one direction or the other to account for a little bit of error. Off the tee, felt good about my game plan, felt good about my execution. A couple of them didn't work out, but that's to be expected. That's normal. Okay, there's no golfer in the world that hits it 300 plus that hits every fairway. They hit a 60-yard window. That's what I try to do, and there's not many 60-yard wide fairways. So your target is fairway plus the best other outcomes, whether it's the side of the just away from the out of bounds and away from the big trouble. So I'm not worried about tee shots. I'm not worried about approach shots. I'm worried about some decision making and mostly mental stuff. So that's what I'm taking away from this round. That's what I'm going to work on next week at Saddle Rock, and we'll see how it goes. If I going back, I always think if I can minimize those errors, I was only a couple shots out of second, third place, and get a couple putts to fall, and you have a chance to win. So it's it's 75 and 70 is a pretty big gap, but it's not that big a deal. It's not that many things, just a couple things here and there, and those are the types of things that will help you take 4 or 5 shots off your game if you can learn from your mistakes and pay attention and try to do better the next time. So hopefully that makes some sense. That's how I do it. It usually doesn't take that long because I'm not narrating and messing around with all these devices. It usually takes me 20, 30 minutes to kind of go through everything, figure out the what, figure out the why. That's really the second most important thing, is the why. Like, it's not just I lost 3.5 strokes putting. It's why did I lose them? Was it misreads? Was it mental? Is my stroke messed up? Do I need to go practice? Do I need to work on my mental game? That's where you get the best learning, is when you get to the why, not just the what. So hopefully that helps you out.